What's happening, cutie patooties? My name's Lou, and today we're talking about developing your own black and white film at home. We have a lot to talk about, so let's ride the lightning. We're going to be doing a simple technique called stand developing. I found a few articles about this online, as well as a sweet video from YouTuber Matthias Berling. I hope I'm saying your name right, dude. It's definitely worth checking out his channel. He's a wonderful photographer and he makes me want to buy all the cameras. Stand developing basically means that we're going to plop our negatives into developer that's pretty diluted by water, enough to the point that it can't necessarily overdevelop. I mean, if you leave it in there for a few years it might happen, but you know, we're not going to do that. So let's walk through how I did this. Starting with the assumption that you need to make your darkroom chemistry. Making fixer is pretty simple. There's directions right on the container, and I'll be using this powdered fixer. All we have to do is bring the water up to the right temperature and dump the shit in. I normally do this outside, as the powder isn't exactly stuff you want to be breathing in. Might be overkill, especially since it started to rain while I was filming this video, but whatever. Here at Sweet Lou Photography,
safety is #1 code.
So you want to also be using purified water. I got this 3 liter of Poland Spring, not sponsored. Tap water, it's fine to drink, but the fluoride and chlorine in it have a chance to interact with darkroom chemistry that can really fuck things up. But tap water is totally safe to drink, you know, those chemicals, that's fine. Just remember to follow the instructions on your specific packet. Mine calls for 3 liters of water, a full packet of powder, then a quick little top off to make it an even gallon. Stir it up and seal it right away. This should last you a bit, and it can be reused after processing negatives, provided you haven't contaminated the chemicals at all. Next, we're going to remove our negatives and pop them onto our reels. You did go shoot, right? Okay, good. After we're done with that, we're going to toss the reels into our developing tank and lock it up. This is pretty straightforward too. You're just going to crack these canisters open with a bottle opener or can opener and pull the negatives out. Then you have to line them up with the intakes on your reel and wind them up. The catch is this has to happen in complete darkness, so find anything that works: a shed, a tool room, a closet, my heart, anything that's a black lightless void. We're trying out 2 rolls today. One is the red guy from this camera that was purchased from an estate sale. I have no clue what's on it or if it's even good. It might be overexposed, who knows, so no love lost if it gets messed up. Next, I have this guy. For some reason, probably my irresponsibility, it has just negatives in there. There's no canister. I don't know what the fuck happened. I think it was from the last time I went to develop and I discovered that part of my developing tank had a broken cover. Whoops. Anyway, lights out now, guys. I'll see you in a second. So here's a pretty important quick note. You can only do 1 roll at a time. I tried out 2 and this happened. It didn't develop at all. Well, that's kind of a lie. This little tiny section here developed, but yeah, do 1 roll at a time. Okay, so now that we're all set with our negatives in our developing tank, we can prep our developer. For this, I'm using Rolei R09 one-shot developer. You can order it from most photography places like B&H or Freestyle Photo. This isn't sponsored. We're gonna dilute the fuck out of this developer, so all we want to do is take 3.5 milliliters of the R09 and mix it with 350 milliliters of water. Now, if you're in the States like me, measuring 3.5 milliliters might not be the most obvious thing in the world to you. You know, or if you're like, you know, not good at math like me. Well, if you use a 1/4 teaspoon and a 1/2 teaspoon, that makes 3/4 of a teaspoon, which is a little under 3.5 milliliters. And if you have a 3/4 teaspoon, then lucky you, I didn't. Also, my teaspoons are hearts. Alright, perfect, easy. Now we're gonna pour our chemistry in. Start with the R09. We're gonna agitate 3 times. Agitating is simply turning the developing tank to move the chemicals about inside it. You also want to give the container a nice tap or 2 to make sure that there are no bubbles getting stuck in your negatives. After the first 3 agitations, leave it alone for 30 minutes and go do something else. In my case, I'll be staining this wood. That'll be used in other videos. Once your timer goes off, return and agitate 3 times again and let it sit for another 30 minutes. Matthias recommends popping a bottle of Prosecco during this time. Respect, dude. I got different plans though. To be fair, it is the champagne of beers. Once the timer is up again, we'll dump the developer. Just make sure you have an extra container handy, as you shouldn't just dump your spent chemistry down the drain. That's bad for the environment and shit. Now you can use stop bath here, but I'm a goddamn rebel and I didn't. This phase here is just a wash to stop the developer from overdeveloping and cleanse the negatives of chemicals before dumping in new ones. This seems to be a really heated debate online, but I've never had an issue with using water in the place of stop bath. Some people even argue that using water is better because areas that might have underdeveloped get more time to develop, whereas using stop bath literally just stops the development in its tracks right then and there. Also, my dad used to develop his own photos when he was younger, and he never used stop bath either. Guess us Gornaries don't like baths. Wait a sec, that didn't come out. You'll do this wash for 30 seconds to a minute, then clear the tank and dump in your fixer. We're going to agitate constantly for 30 seconds and then set a timer for 5 minutes, and agitate twice every minute in that time. Finally, we can wash these negatives. You can throw a tiny bit of dish soap in there or whatever and rinse it out thoroughly. And now, we can take a gander at our negatives. Glorious. The old ones from the estate sale didn't come through. I'm a little relieved though, because I was thinking that seeing whatever was on that roll may have turned my photography channel into like a Marble Hornets horror story. Alright, so I know I just threw a shitload of steps at you, so here's everything gathered on one screen. You can pause it right here, and that's your recipe. Enjoy. See, I think of you. And just a quick note, if you're interested, you actually can use this method to cross-process. You can develop your color negatives using this black and white chemistry. Just keep in mind, obviously, that you're not going to get color negatives out of this. And also, the negatives seem to be a little bit darker, a little bit more dense, so you'll have to kind of push the exposure in post. Now we can get to printing, but that's another video in my opinion. We're actually going to get these bad boys onto the computer. You can scan them if you're feeling froggy, but fear not if you don't have a scanner. I have 2 cool tricks for you to try out. The first one involves an old phone or a tablet. All you have to do is find an image of the color white and plop the negatives on top. Then snap a photo of them. You want to use the highest megapixel camera you own here, and use a tripod. The steadier the better. You also need to make sure that there's no angle going on when you take the photo. It needs to be straight. Otherwise you're going to get keystoning going on, the proportions will get weird, horses will start eating people, it'll be a mess. If you don't have a phone available, or you don't want to use your phone, or you can't steal your sister's phone, don't worry about it. I have a plan B. All you're going to do is just go to your window and tape these little suckers on it, okay? Use a little bit of tape so it's easy to get off and you don't leave a mess on the window. I shouldn't really need to say this, but I will. Do this during the day. Then set up your tripod and do your worst. If you don't have a phone or a window, I can't help you, and I'm sorry. Once your photos are on your PC, pop them into Photoshop, import the raw files, invert the images, and edit them to your heart's content. And there you go, you can share them to Instagram or whatever you want. Congratulations, bud, you just developed negatives with me. Thanks a lot, subscribe to my channel and validate my existence. I love you, bye! Plan B is take... Fuck! This is pretty straight... Oh my god, dude. I can't. This is pretty straightforward. You're just gonna crack these canisters. Fuck! Like my Final Fantasy ringtone. I love Instagram, like when you got a notification. 100 emoji! Kill yourself. Glorious. Glorious. Oh my god, I can't say this word well.